I am talking to James Pope, the IT director for the City of Gloucester, and recently anointed a local hero. You have been just a superstar, I know, in the Gloucester community. And let's talk about that. The governor declared a state of emergency on March 10th. The mayor declared a state of emergency. Schools were closed. Suddenly, the whole city had to learn how to operate
remotely, right? Yep.
including a large city school system. So do you want to talk about what that felt like and what was going on then?
Sure. So it kind of started with not really an all of a sudden, but a pretty swift move to, close the offices. How do we make it so these, on the city side, we kind of count about 200 task workers, people who sit in front of a desk every day, and I'm not including the schools at the moment. And how do we get them to work remotely? We had already been through a large effort to sort of remotely enable at least the managerial level of the city. So, and that in the simplest forms means giving them a laptop instead of a desktop. So the next quick action was to take every laptop that kind of worked and get it in front of an employee who needed to keep working. And what helped us a lot was, one, we already had equipment, because I will tell you, that day I ordered more laptops and they showed up last Thursday. So there's no, and again, in the same vein, that day I ordered webcams, like 10 webcams for a normal amount of money a piece. And that webcam today is, one, not available, and when available is $200. So we just saw, these inventory supply and demand things play out very quickly.
And what day was that, James? When did it all start to unravel?
Right. So what was that? 3 years ago now, it feels like. So if I would have to honestly look at a calendar at this point.
Early March, right?
Yeah, early March. It was that, let's call it that week one. Right. The offices are closed, and we did all these things kind of week one. And in that, when the governor also changed the remote meeting for public meetings, previously it was really just that a member of a board could remotely participate, but you had to have a quorum in person live. Because we were thinking, okay, are we going to invite in the majority of a board and commission, spread them out, and then spread out all the chairs in Kairos, something like that. But then it became very obvious that that was the wrong decision, and we needed to go full remote. So that was so that if you call that week one, we took the rest of that week and the beginning of the next week to flesh out the technology. We along with everyone else in the world, landed on Zoom. Congratulations, Zoom.
Here we are.
And from my point of view, we looked at the other major platforms, GoToMeeting and Cisco's WebEx product, but literally couldn't get a sales rep, because they require a sales rep to talk to you, to get you to call you back. Whereas Zoom, strangely enough, although while the auditor would prefer not, the city does have a credit card. And we worked through the regular procurement process, just use it as the payment mechanism. And I was able to turn on some Zoom accounts quickly without going through a human interaction, really.
So what was the city meeting you got up on Zoom, and how did that go?
So because we were allowed to, so funny enough, the mechanism was Zoom, but that's not what people saw. So literally the first two was a Concom and Planning Board, so Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. Greg Catamatore for both, meeting by himself at home, because the governor allowed a single person to open and close a meeting for the pure purpose of continuation of the meeting. And that's what he did. So he did the first two. We actually used a built-in function to Zoom to push to YouTube. So we didn't have to teach anyone about Zoom at first and just say, here's a YouTube link, nothing to do but watch it. And Greg Catamatore did a great job, and it was the first two meetings. You can go see, I think they're the only two things on the City of Gloucester's YouTube channel, maybe with an inauguration in there somewhere.
So he's the only participant. It's just
he was the only talking to his laptop by himself, in an echo chamber of sorts. And so he continued the first two meetings, and then after that we got into City Council and School Committee, and those meetings are still on the City of Gloucester's webpage. I'm actually bringing it up while I talk to you. um, the City of Gloucester webpage, and those recordings are there and will be there forever. And so that was the 24th. That was March 24th. That's how long we got to the full council meet, or sorry, a BNF and a city council meeting the same day. We had done training sessions with the board. We taught the members how it worked. We taught the city staff how it worked. We explained and wrote content for the city website on how the public could access these, how they could interact with us. And they were fundamentally successful. You know, we had them, we complied with the law, and we allowed the public to interact with us.
Well, I want to get to the school, but since we're on the website, at the same time, you were creating a new city website, and that just
Right. To be fair, we had actually finished it, and COVID hit. And so Vanessa Krozik in the mayor's office and Jill Cahill in community development and I looked at each other and said, we can't do this week. This can't be the other thing we do right now. So we pushed pause on the rollout of that until on the flip side, we all looked, the same group of people looked at each other and said, we can't keep updating 2 websites. We have to push this live. And that was sort of one of the reasons why we did push it live when we did.
So, and the big update was moving all these Zoom links, the Zoom links to meetings on
all the content we had created in between the 2 points, basically, of a content migration from the old website to present at the time. And so we moved content, we moved the COVID page that we were updating 3-4 times a day sometimes. And I have to, you know, from the back end of the new website, it is much easier for city staff to update. So we all wanted to get there because we knew a little bit of our day was going to get easier as soon as we got to the new website.
It's a beautiful website and it's really facile to use.
Thank you. We're still, all websites are a work in progress. There is no turn live and forget about it. You know, many members of the community that know how to reach me directly have told me all the little things that they would like to see tweaked, and we put that on the list and work through them. And one of the reasons the website gets registered as beautiful is, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Sean, it's not McLaughlin, but a chance encounter with the police chief, myself, walking outside City Hall and seeing a drone fly by and seeing the pilot and just asking him if he could turn his drone around and take a few pictures of City Hall. And that's how we got those pictures. And he was so nice to do any of that. Sean O'Lawlin, an absolute, and you know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention his work, because he absolutely gave us permission to use all the footage, and even went out some day later and took more pictures and sent it to us. So he's Cutbridge Productions. Very, very, very appreciative of his letting us use his content.
We'll give him a shout out. So let's jump to the school system. I mean, you had to turn an entire city school system to a remote operation. How did that?
Right. So so just to be clear on that, I can talk about it a little bit, but I am not actually the IT director for the schools. So I have a counterpart, Grant Harris, who I have a counterpart, Grant Harris. Him and I have actually known each other for, I used to say 15 years, but it must be 20 now, because I was actually hired as a student to work for the school system in an IT capacity. At the same time, he was brought in as a contractor to sort of help out with some projects. So Grant has been in the school system for a long time. And again, some of the pre-planning or just the regular path the school has been on helped them in this scenario. When you start to get, the school decided to begin a one-to-one program, that meant they were been adding Chromebooks for years now. So it means that those are either already in kids' hands, students' hands, or sitting in carts in 25, 30 at a pop in a cart in classrooms. So it gave you the equipment, because as I mentioned with this whole laptop thing, if you needed to order 1,000 Chromebooks or 800 Chromebooks at this time, that would have been a much more difficult proposition. But I know that after they transitioned the one-to-one kids into working remotely, they started ripping apart those carts full of Chromebooks and started distributing those. And the one thing I did help them with make sure that they had PPEs so that they could be safe for themselves and the people they're handing them out to, and they really orchestrated that. Though the one little thing that I did get pulled into early to help, and it was, as the mayor who's my boss sits on the school committee, we kind of both looked at this problem, was the kids that don't have home internet access.
Right.
And so that was the one of the things that I said out loud kind of on a whim, and it got some attention, was that it was clear to me that there were kids, or it was clear to the school system as well, that there were kids that don't have home internet. We were uncertain exactly how many there were. You could estimate there was 150 families. There were definitely some people who maybe filled out the survey incorrectly or maybe didn't understand the question. So let's call it 150 maybe at most. We mapped some of them. We mapped the ones we got respondents to. We looked at them on a map, and there was no clustering. There was no, well, if we solve it for this neighborhood, we pick up 10 kids. They were absolutely spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, a couple paths to a resolution: buying hotspots, distributing to the families, paying for the hotspot, paying for the service, and supporting them as they try to make this thing work. And I just thought to myself one evening, I'm like, enough people in Gloucester have home internet. If we all just opened up the guest network on our home routers, that would blanket large areas of this city. I don't think it got very far. I don't think it was a grassroots effort, but it was a nice gesture. All I can say is at home, and I lived in downtown Gloucester, there's definitely one person using my home internet right now, and I am absolutely okay with that.
That is so great. I knew you had opened up your home internet.
Right. And so the schools, and then the schools went through, the schools have a sort of a different dynamic. So you can solve the technology problem, but you have to address the staffing change. And so I watched, as I was now on every public meeting that existed, for the City of Gloucester for several weeks, watched some of the negotiations with the GTA around this change in working conditions. Again, it wasn't anyone holding out. It was just like, you need an agreement, because this is fundamentally a change in working conditions. If nothing else is, this definitely is one. Right. So I watched those meetings, progress, and they came to an agreement after a couple rounds of negotiation, and they are now in the thick of hosting remote classrooms. So that, and then again, if the technology wasn't already there in the sense of the devices, this would have been a very much slower, very different conversation. And right. So good on the city, good on the school department, good on the teachers, good on the school's IT department of pushing forward with one-to-one devices, because that certainly enables this to happen.
And how about the public health department? Are you working with them in any way?
Yep. So besides from representing IT at a twice weekly COVID meeting led by Karen Carroll, who, can't say this enough, what an all-star. She's been cool, calm, collected, and knowledgeable, and can really sort of handle the personalities, handle everyone that's heard the cats, as you say, to kind of bring this forward, and she's done a fantastic job. So besides remotely enabling their staff, making sure Karen became a pro at a remote meeting like everyone else. When contact tracing sort of picked up, we were originally really just using our one public health nurse. And Kelly, again, does a fantastic job, but when there's, at a given point, there was close to 100 active cases, and when you're trying to talk to everyone that person has seen in 2 weeks, difficult proposition. And so it was a simple matter of, we need to get phone lines for this, for 10, volunteer might be the right word. I think they're still on the payroll. They're just doing a different job. There's the school nurses. I think they stepped in and did whatever was needed, and they're without a change of working condition negotiation, or maybe a very short one. And they stepped in, and we, thanks to a program called FirstNet, which is cellular devices for first responders, essentially. It extends to public health officials and department members. So we could get 10 flip phones in 24 hours. We get those, we program them, another staff member and I brute force getting the the voicemails all set up, and we handed those out. So that's how we got, enabled 10 more staff people to work from home that weren't originally part of our network of devices to start working. So we just enablement. All we do is enable. People do the work. We just enable.
But they were therefore able to make all these phone calls to do
Make
this.
all these phone calls, and I believe, the phrase contact tracing, is loaded because there's a big privacy issue that comes along with it. But I think you can say, and I think Carol would agree, that Massachusetts' own effort in this arena helped us immensely. We still have a large number of cases. We still have everything else that goes along with COVID right now, but I think it helped, immensely.
So I want to get to the last part of your story right now, but in retrospect, what would you say was what were the highs and the lows of this whole experience for the past 2 months?
So a new set of challenges and problem solving on the fly is, I think, the fun of any IT person. So anyone that's in technology, anyone that considers themselves technically inclined, loves a new problem. Something's broken, I got to fix it right now, and that is fun. And I always enjoy, testing a system. Was I certain before that, 50, 60 remote laptops coming into our network all at once was going to work really well? I didn't know until it happened. And I'm glad to know that it worked. And it was so interesting. We found one thing with how we do file sharing that is temperamental over the network. And now I have, a new little project on addressing that going forward. Is this going to happen again? Who knows? But it will be solved for the next time, And it exposes what you aren't doing well, and it gives you an opportunity to fix that as well. So I do enjoy it. It's the rising to the challenge always.
That's great. And tell us what's next for you.
So yes, I sadly I am leaving the city of Gloucester. I have a tremendous opportunity to join a startup named Ready Responders, based in New Orleans. But is it because of COVID expanding rapidly? So they took a probably 12 to 18 month expansion plan and compressed it into weeks. And so they went from their home market of they went from their home market of New Orleans and Louisiana, and expanded into these large markets, New York, DC, LA, etc., very quickly. What they should have been doing months from now, they're trying to do right now. And so I come in as the Vice President of Information Technology and get to build a new team, solve new problems. I get to, in the beginning at least, not relocate, get to stay in Gloucester, which lets me A, stay in Gloucester, and B, provide some support to the city to help them in a transition, and a whole new set of challenges. I do like the new challenges. Build something new, solve new problems. I do like the healthcare space. I had been in it previous to municipal, because it does have that same little warm and fuzzy feeling at times of like what you're doing is actually trying to help people at the end of the day, if you boil it down. So that's exciting.
Thank you so much for all you've done for the city, for the community, and it's really great to know that you're not leaving right away.
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative that the little articles in the paper and obviously things like this. I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Well, it's all back at you. I know. So, well, thank you. I hope to see you around.
Well, absolutely.
Take care.
Thank you.